So in here, she is a maid. She got hired as a maid in Venice. That's why she just followed the Venetian suite. She was in the town. She got hired as a maid, and for 2 weeks, and she, instead of cleaning the beds and she photographed everything in the room, the beds. She went through the luggage. She read the correspondence. She documented everything. There's a will. She copies the will. I mean, totally insane. So here are some photographs. Room 29. Okay, nothing much special, but then there's the content. So various things. You've got the diary of the person. You can read everything. Cool. 30. That is made. You know, it's contents of the luggage and all that. Underwear, dirty underwear. So that's the next project. The most, no, so you, I want to read this one more example before I go to my talk properly speaking. This is the most amazing thing that she did, also in the same years, and the most effective, and certainly made a star at the time in France. The medium was not the book, but a daily newspaper. The series of photographs called the Address Book appeared in Libération during the whole month in the early 80s. This is a journal that does not have the circulation of the New York Times, as you know, but throughout the 70s and until the mid-80s, it was definitely the newspaper of the left intelligentsia, something that exists at that time in France. It even threatened Le Monde at some point, hitting several 100,000 copies daily, a huge step for Calle's exposure if one opposes it to the 3,000 or 4,000 copies of the book. And I remember very well, admirative many of us were, you know, for a conceptual artist to have managed such an achievement. You know, it's like, it doesn't happen that often. And, you know, it was riveting. People were very, very interested in this project, and it was the talk of the town. You know, the story is that she found an address book in the streets of Paris, and she decided to go and interview every man in the. That is, she actually returned the book to the mail was the address, but she made a photocopy of the book and she pretended she still had it. And she went to interview every single person that was in this address book to try to make a sort of portrait robot of the missing person, of the owner. And Libération gave her a half a page. So this is the first one. It's the first half page. You know, she explained that she found this book. Every day she reproduced an interview of one of the interviewer, or the narrative rather than the interview, plus a photograph related to the interview of one of the person whose address was in the address book. And very quickly it became clear who this person was. She gave him a fictional name, which was close to his real name, Pierre B. And you know, and day after day after day for 28 days, there was this half page of Sophie Calle with this. So there was a kind of mystery of these people. Now, the man was not there in France at the time, and so he, you know, it was very strange that, you know, his private life, the features of his personality, all that were, you know, on a daily, which at the time, Libération at the time was very, I said around 300,000. It went way down since, for good reasons, because also got way worse as a newspaper, but it was a very read newspaper, so it was a bit surprising that if this man was alive, and she knew it was, she was herself a bit surprised. There was no reaction. The last image is just trees, and here's what she says: Pierre, I tracked you for a whole month. If I would stumble upon you in the street, I think I'd recognize you, but I would not talk to you. I met your friends, I heard them. Tonight I'm leaving Paris. I could have gone to Reims, where you were born, find your school, your house. I could have tried to reach you in Laponia, where you work. I choose to take the train for Rome, where you go each summer. That was the other. So, when the guy came back, returned to France and returning from Norway, where he was working the whole time, he was absolutely furious. Of course, not against his friends, but against the intrusion in his private life. And here's his comment: the fact that I was not named in these articles doesn't change anything. Anybody that knows me would recognize me there. And there are in this text certain details of my life or my project that I would like to keep private. It would be ridiculous to protest now, but since Sophie Calle is a photographer, I'll comment this image that I too found Rue des Martyrs, the street where Calle found the address book. The image is the image of a naked woman, and it's Sophie Calle. It has been made by Patrice Bay, photographer. This young woman, who is she? Let us keep her anonymous. But there is something that, for the sake of my demonstration, I do not respect, and I find that shocking myself. I did not ask for her authorization to publish a photo of a rather intimate character. Would she be as confident if she had known that she'd be exposed naked in Libération? Yes, I'm shocking myself, because I'm doing violence to someone. In Norway this summer, I was taking part of a workshop of documentary cinema called direct cinema, whose hypothesis was that the image that people have of themselves is part of the reality. The idea is not to steal the image, but deal with the fact that they have something to say in words or show by their body language. The people who are filmed thus are not considered the prey of an inquisitor. I think that such a type of cinema, where the documentary is not based on the model of the police inquiry, is difficult, but that something important is at stake as long as the artist or writer does not limit him or herself to be the voyeur of the surrounding world. I am not Ph.D, but I am not X either, so I sign Pierre Baudry. Interesting to note, he was an important member of the Cahiers du Cinéma, so the world is quite small. Calle, the apprentice sorcerer, had revealed a condition of photography to an extent she was perhaps not fully predicted. And Pierre Baudry is still furious. In fact, a most recent publication called Double Game, in the most recent publication in English called Double Game, in French it's called Double Games, it's the same. This project is only presented with the first two and last images. So these images and then the tree. And she quotes at length the contract of the publisher that requires that she does not put him at risk and requires that none of the content of the book be in any way attacked for liability. But as you'll see when I discuss more recent projects, this did not prevent Sophie Calle from playing Pippin Tom. So my text is this essay, which is it's a version of the essay. It's not exactly the whole essay, but it's kind of a shorter version of it. It's called Piper Tigress, and you will understand it why. And there's several sections which each have a title, which I'll give you. So the first section is called In Retrospect. In general, Sophie Calle writes at the past tense. For example, for months I followed strangers on the street, in the street Vénitienne. I met people who were born blind, that's a blind, 1986. But from the very beginning of her career, whenever she uses the historical present, and it's more and more rarely, it always has a documentary role in her stories. Its function is to admit exhibits as evidence. On Sunday, April 1st at 5 p.m., I welcomed Gloria K. I offered to show her the room, the bed. It's the sleepers, 1980. The past for Calle is not a hodgepodge of nostalgic memorabilia, but a prefab construction. Nothing is more clinical than the metallic cupboards in which she stores and shows her birthday gifts. I'm referring here to a much later piece called The Birthday Ceremony, consisting of about 15 cupboards, or rather as many as the number of years it took for the work to be completed, each cupboard filled with her unopened gift. A past only exists through its proof, and this proof is always induced by the author. The scenario which produced it is always prescribed in advance. This is what Calle called the rule of the game. And by reaction, the legislative aspect of her work triggers this question, but what of all the moments in time that are not inventoried? Second section, St. Thomas' hat. In 1984, during the Olympic Games in Los Angeles, she asked various people she met, where are the angels? The man so approached invited her to hop in a car. I quote, I said, where are we going? He replied, to find the angel. We went to the Variety Arts Center, 940 Figueroa Street. There, he put in my hand the hat of W.C. Fields, a dove from Desmond size 7. He declared, you have to have faith to believe that his hat was really worn by W.C. Fields. I chose to have faith. There was a time when Hollywood had the innocence of angels. That's still the man speaking. This hat embodies faith and innocence. It is a relic. If angels are here on earth to guide people, when you are lost in Hollywood, go and see that hat.